even start a video like this, this video is probably going to be like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. You better subscribe, because this definitely was a lot of work. It's not every day that you go outside. Oh wait, that's just me. No, it's not every day you go outside and you see someone holding a camcorder. You know, that other type of tube camera. The one with the grip on the side of it? No? This might refresh your memory then. This one is from about 2010. But today, we're not looking at this. Today, I want to show you the king of all consumer camcorders. This behemoth is the Canon VIXIA HF GX10, or maybe just the VIXIA GX10. I am Mr. Red, and welcome back to the Deep Feature series, where I pick up a thing, or two things, and I tell you basically everything I know about them and what they mean to me. So, first thing, take a look at the specs of a smartphone. It's very possible that yours was made in the past 6 years. My main phone, the iPhone 12 Pro, was made in about 2020. It's also very likely that it can shoot 4K 60 video as well. That's 4K video at 60 FPS. And both of these can do that, in varying levels of quality anyway. But it's never great. And as a device with only one job to do, a camcorder from 2023 that costs $1,000 should be able to match a phone from 6 years ago, right? Surely. Right? It's kind of difficult to find accurate information on the internet about this camcorder due to it not being that popular and very expensive. That might seem to be a bit of an understatement too, because when Canon fired this out in the year 2017, they did so for an absurd $2.5 grand. They still go for well over $1,000 nowadays as well. And with this cam being only 2 years from being a decade old, that's pretty intense. The price is somewhat reflected in the features though. This camcorder shoots excellent footage for 2017 standards. It's even pretty great today. I mean, I shot the lenses video that was an hour long a couple weeks ago with this camcorder. So yeah, it's pretty great today, rivaling the newest iPhones, of which this is not, at least in terms of quality. So it wasn't going to be cheap in the line anyway. But speaking of the line of camcorders this GX10 comes from, first, as far as I can tell, there was the G10 in 2011, then the G20 and G30 in 2013, and then the G40 in 2016. These are all just full HD camcorders, as in 1080p. They likely still shoot very fantastic HD video, but it's still only 1080p. The G10 shot 1080p 30, and so did the G20 as far as I can tell, but the G30 shot up to 60 FPS 1080p as well. And the G40 likely just did more of the same but better. But in 2019, Canon revamped these models, first into the G50, and then the G60 later that year. 2016 that is. The G50 could shoot either 1080p 60 or 4K 30. The G60 though, is one of the only ones I have first-hand experience with, because I was trying to do After Effects pixel tracking, you know, Adobe After Effects stuff, and the footage was too noisy for it to accurately track the, you know, the pixels across the screen. And that was with my phone, and we didn't have anything in the house of better quality than my phone at the time, so, well, I had to get something. So I got a Canon G60, and this camcorder seemed like a good mid-range option. It also wasn't absurdly expensive. It could still record up to 4K 30 or 1080p 60, but it could also record 1080p 30 and 720p for more options. Oh, and it could record 1080p at either 17 or the full 35 megabits. 4K was locked to 150 megabits though. 720p was 8 megabits, I believe. All H.264, or AVC. It shot 256 kilobit AAC audio, so not that bad, and the footage this shot was the best I had ever recorded before. Later on, I realized that I really wanted to shoot in 4K 60 instead, and I was using my phone for that. That always looked terrible though. Plus, around this time, I wanted to get my girlfriend a new laptop because she had been using the same 2015 MacBook Air since that model came out, and my friend had just fixed up one of the new M1 Pro MacBook Pros, so I decided to trade my friend my G60 camcorder for that new laptop to give to my then girlfriend. I dubbed that decision worth it. But now I'm out of camcorder, and I'll explain later why I specifically want a camcorder when there seem to be much better options out there. I go over the entire journey of me discovering mirrorless cameras and learning about what they can and can't do in the first 1 hour long video on this channel. If I remember to, I'll put a link in the description to it, so you can go watch it. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just get depressed. So I went on a search for a 4K60 camcorder. I found a few, one that was extra crap and a bunch that were way too expensive. However, I did find a few mentions of this one model of Canon camcorder that people were saying could do 4K60. I eventually found the model name and looked it up. It was the Canon VIXIA GX10. Most review sites treated it as almost a novelty, something to admire but not really to use. And at the absurd price at launch, who can blame them? But fast forward 8 years past that launch date, and I'm seeing a few for sale here and there on some websites, but not a lot. These clearly didn't sell very well, but now they're only $1.50. We were testing cameras around that price point, so I begged my business partner to get one of these to let me try, because as I mentioned previously, I really wanted to do 4K60 everything. And a 4K60 camcorder seemed like exactly what I needed. He eventually agreed, and when it arrived, I took it out of its giant box, which this thing is simply huge. Like, look at it compared to the actual thing. It's massive compared to the device. So I took this clown-sized camcorder out of its box along with its clown-sized power supply. Like, holy crap, could these things be any bigger? And I tested it out. The test video is actually still up on the iRead Redux YouTube channel, but it doesn't look very good compared to the other test videos I made around that time, and that's because, well, those were all tests recorded on cameras that were made well after this 8-year-old camcorder, so of course they're going to do better in the quality department. Let's take a look around the hardware a little bit as I tell you more about its capabilities. So here's the thing, close up, and right away it looks very cool, but look closer and it just gets bizarre. For example, this plastic. I don't like the plastic that most of this unit is made of, but then there's this material near the front of the lens that feels quite different. Actually much better, but might still be plastic though. But there's more. On the top of it, there's a few badges for features. One is the optical image stabilizer, which we'll talk about later, and the advanced mini shoe. This advanced mini shoe badge is on a piece that you can slide back and off to reveal its camcorder hot shoe mount. Although this isn't the normal one you might be familiar with. It's significantly more goofy. You can see the contacts in there that make this a hot shoe. This camcorder does also have a cold shoe mount, and it's on the top here as well, but more near the lens. What are both mounts on though? Well, yet another type of plastic. This is some kind of sparkly nonsense. This plastic specifically makes this unit feel more like a toy than equipment, but I actually like it. Remember, this thing cost almost $3,000 after tax. Alright, on the left side, we have a lot of stuff. This camcorder has 15x optical zoom, which is okay for a camcorder. Here's who made it and what the thing actually is. And below this we have badges for SDXC, which means this supports up to 1TB SD cards, and then MP4 because that's the file format it saves to, and Wi-Fi. Wait, Wi-Fi? What use could that have in a camcorder? Oh, you'll see. It's amazing and very disappointing at the same time. These badges are all on this hunk of plastic which swings out to reveal the flip-out touch LCD display with 2 buttons on it, AF/MF and powered IS. AF/MF toggles between autofocus mode and manual focus mode, and powered IS, if IS is off in settings, when held down, turns it on for as long as you hold it down. Inside this area here, there's a small sticker yours likely won't come with, which tells me that this unit was some kind of demonstration unit somewhere. Next to that is the Prerec button, which I couldn't actually get to work, but I'll show you it working later on. Custom button 3, and battery info. Prerec also counts as custom button 4. On the back here, there's a menu button, and a jog stick with a set button in the middle that acts as enter. Above those is the power/charge light, and that can be red or green. Forward from that is the mode switch, which also turns the unit on. However, that won't turn the unit on right now because there's no battery in here right now. Above the battery place, there's an iCup viewfinder, but you actually have to grab it and pull it out to turn it on. When pulled out, you can swivel it to face up. At the bottom of the viewfinder, there's a little switch, which is less of a switch and actually more of a dial, since it moves one of the focusing elements in the viewfinder back and forth. Over here is customization button 5, which has the badge Magan. That is what I call magnificent. Below that is the record button, which seems to be some kind of ellipsoid shape. No, not ellipsoid. I don't know, what do you call that? It's not even really an oval, it's more of a pill shape. It's a pill-shaped record battery. Record battery? It's a pill-shaped record button. And under this labeled PVC flap, there is a tiny remote jack, a stereo headphone jack, and an 8.4 volt DC jack. Speaking of this DC jack, it is to be used with this giant ass power supply on the table here. And just this power supply is almost half the size of the camcorder itself. It's just huge. It also has two huge ferrite things hanging off of its output side. Like these are massive. Hang on, let me get something to compare this to. Adequately sized mouse. These things are just huge, and there's two of them, and the cable isn't even that long. It's ridiculous. And this thing only outputs a maximum of 31 watts. As a comparison, here's a 30 watt USB-C charger from Apple. Just look at this. Why is this thing so big? This is the Canon CA946AC adapter. At least the cables it came with are nice and long. Okay, done with this. I can get this off the table now. On the bottom is the model information sticker, of course, which confirms that this is the Canon VIXIA GX10, no HF, and what? DC 7.4 volts? That actually conflicts with the PVC flap on the back, where the DC jack actually is, that says 8.4 volts. But whatever. My understanding is that these devices have tolerances for things like this to a point, so maybe it doesn't really matter. Then we have a hole. I don't know what the hell that's for, but this other hole is just a normal tripod socket. This camcorder is pounds, so there you go. Don't break your tripod. There's a little rubber strip down here, as well as the battery release lever. On the right side, there's a release for the SD card slot cage, which quickly pops open and reveals that the little window that lets you see in there, which is some grayed plastic, kind of became unstuck from where it's supposed to be, so let me put that back in there. Which I can do, and it kind of usually snaps in there, but it's not going to stay in there. In fact, I'm actually having trouble putting it back right now. Wow, is this not going back in? Ah, come on now. There we go. That'll be in there for now. But that plastic will soon detach itself from reality in a moment. But the point is, this is the SD card cage. In here, I have a 256 gigabyte Lexar SD card, and what's special about this is that this card is a V60 class SD card, which means it's just faster than most SD cards, basically. And this allows me to move off the footage off of this card faster than anything else. So clearly, this is where the video gets recorded to. But why am I saying it like that? Well, that's because this camcorder has two SD card slots. Do I really have to say it? There's two of them. This is decently common on high-end cameras and camcorders like this Canon R6 Mark II. I mean, there's only one card in here right now, but I could put two in here if I wanted to. See, there you go, two slots. And this is about $3,000, so yeah. So in slot B, I have, well, an adapter. But inside this adapter, I have a 1 terabyte Team Group micro SD card, which theoretically is a V30 class card. I've always hated the name Team Group. It's just a really stupid name. And most of the Team Group products we've bought have been crap and broke in short order. Examples include one fan on an AIO cooler that's in my encoder PC, or my old encoder PC. I actually wrote the script back when I hadn't made Render Dragon yet, but Render Dragon is almost finished, and that's going to be the encoding matrix for all my stuff. Maybe I'll make a video on that. How do I store my crap? Subscribe and leave a comment if you want me to make a video about that, because your results may shock you. And of course, a lot of these cards have shit the bed too, but in this camcorder, this is where the still photos go. These cards are so bad that this is the only legitimate use I have left for them. I can't even record to this either. It always craps out after a few minutes. The longest I was able to get in this camcorder recording video was just over 15 minutes on this card. Recording time. How long do you think you can just set this to record before it has a problem? Well, that's simple. If you're running on the AC adapter, it's until all of your cards are full. That's the only limit I have found. And based on the max loadout of two 1TB SD cards, this camcorder can record connected to the AC adapter for an estimate maximum of 30 hours and 20 minutes. And that's pretty crazy. How can it do this? Well, on this side, oh, the plastic thing fell out again. Whoopsie. Well, on this side, we see the answer. This camcorder has an intake vent over here near the front, and it has an exhaust near the rear. This can only mean one thing, and it's that this camcorder has a fan in it. No, really. Like one of those spinny ones. And that's to cool off the two image processors this has. This GX10 has two Digit DV6 processors inside, while the G60 and later the G70 only had one. I don't know why this needs two of them, but I can guess. And my theory on that is that the DV6 isn't actually capable of the full 4K60 video on its own, but is capable of 4K30. Therefore, two of them are used here in sort of a linkage, similar to NVIDIA's SLI or AMD's Crossfire for computer graphics cards. Probably very incorrect, but that's the only thing I see this being for. So to alleviate some confusion, I'm going to tell you how I'm doing this, because in the next scene we turn this thing on, but I don't want you to be confused about what's connected to this and why. So zoom out right now. So over here, we have an M4 Mac Mini. This is what's going to be recording the output from this camcorder, but you can't just connect these up together. That just doesn't work, especially on this old thing. So I have to take the HDMI coming out of it, which I will show you later. So I'm gonna plug a cable into that, and that goes to this, which is the interface that takes the video from this and hands it over to a USB port on the Mac Mini for capture. So yeah, if you see the cable coming off of it, that's what it's for. So, about its capabilities, let's turn the thing on. Flip the mode switch to camera, and this turns the cam on. I actually have an attachment on here that I'll talk about later, but for now I'm going to take that off. So this is what you'll see on the touchscreen display or the viewfinder. I favor the display, and here's what everything is. When you turn it on, it announces some things accompanied with a boing boing. It says which SD card it's set to record to, what shooting mode it's in, and the date and time. It announces that for a few seconds and then goes to the shooting screen. Also, when it turns off, it says a task in progress, don't disconnect the power source. You can also just tap the screen when it's announcing stuff and just skip past it. On the screen are the shooting mode, the time code, if it's recording or stopped, the stabilization setting, the ND filter active when active, the focus mode, the face detection mode, the battery status, the current card status, the frame rate, resolution, and bitrate setting, and an audio meter. And you can make all of this, but the recording status, go away by pressing the battery info button. Because as you see, we still have the recording status here, which changes to recording when you're recording. Yeah. I'm gonna press that again to get it back though. If you press down the powered IS button, the stabilization setting icon will turn from whatever it is to a hand with a P. There's also some buttons down at the bottom. The furthest one is the focus selection button, which if you press it, you can tap anywhere in the rectangle it shows to focus on using the touchscreen, and then it will attempt to track that focus based on whatever it thinks you tapped on. Also, now that you've done that, that button has now turned into the off button for this. Next is the photo button, which if selected, will take a, I think 8 megapixel photo and save that as a JPEG to, well, for me, the card B slot, because that's what I set it to. When it does this, it says a bunch of settings used to take that picture, as well as some seemingly unrelated icons that I don't think appear ever anywhere else, like the little circle. Now we have the function button. Press this, and it opens up a live shooting menu. However, there's not a lot for you to do here right now because we're in auto mode. We'll come back to this when there's more options here, but for now, there is a zoom control and some redundant buttons, and a microphone quick settings menu that lets you change from auto mic volume to manual, and change the parameters such as manualness. Oh, and there's some kind of mic mode changer. And this has standard, which is normal, but there's a bunch of stuff in here. So other than standard, there is music, which captures sound vibrantly as it spreads. What? Ideal for recording music indoors. We'll test that. Festival, captures music playing outdoors more naturally. Ideal for recording outdoor events with music. Speech, Clearly records people's voices, ideal for recording speeches. Duh. Meeting records multiple voices so that the audience can differentiate them as if they were there, ideal for recording meetings. Forest and birds clearly records sounds in natural settings such as forests or mountains. I actually live in the forest and mountains, so we can test that later. And noise suppression reduces noise from wind in cars, ideal for recording in a car or crowd. I should have been doing that a long time ago. And there's always something that I can't access. No idea what this is, but that's a lot of stuff. And I can test most of these because of where I'm located. I'm going to record each of these with the best mode that applies to them, as well as with normal and noise suppression modes. Okay, so here's a separate test of voice isolation. This is the standard mode, standard setting for most situations, but now I'm going to turn this over to speech. Clearly records people's voices, ideal for recording speeches. Hopefully this is going to be kind of like a speech. I don't really know, how to make a speech, but yeah, so this might be recording my voice a little bit better than standard mode does, and I don't really know how, because again, I don't have this footage yet. I'm recording it now, but I'll have it later, and then I'll go to a meeting, which apparently is like speech, but for multiple people at once. So maybe I'll be like right in the center, and instead of having my voice be stereo like in speech or like in standard mode like it is in right now. So hopefully that'll do something. I don't really know. I'll just kind of roll through the thing. So talk, 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 talk. This last mode is actually called custom setting, and it says I can set how the camcorder records sounds from the menus, which I'm not really sure how to do that. Like at all. I don't even, like, there's no menu here, there's no options, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that, so that's weird. But this concludes the microphone test, hopefully. I need you to help me test something.
What?
Voices thing on this.
The voices?
Yeah, so we have to talk about something. Hang on, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't know you wanted to shoot your belly button. Here, just tilt up the screen.
What? What?
See, that would...
So this is standard mode.
This is stereo.
Okay, so we both have to just talk.
This is me talking using different words because I have an imagination and I know that I can use different words in order to say the same thing. Rather than just rambling on with the same repetitive and breathing in when I need to, and the handle on this is going to pull the drawer out.
What? This is now meeting, which is records multiple voices in the audience. So it records multiple voices so that the audience can differentiate them.
It's kind of like edge enhancement in video.
I don't know.
Well, of course, there's only two people talking, so it's going to be really easy to do it. But you have to talk.
Yeah, and this is talking. So we're back to standard, and then now we're back to meeting. Standard. Okay, hopefully that did anything. Okay, so this is the standard mode. Let's walk outside. Dead bird there, by the way. Sadly. Oop. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, lots of birds. Let's see what happens when we switch this to bird mode. Forest and birds. Okay, so now we're on the forest mode. Okay, now I'll switch this back to standard mode. I was going to test noise suppression here, so maybe it will eliminate things other than my voice. I don't know. And here's back to standard. Back to forests and birds. And standard. Here's speech, so this is... I'll actually test this later, but this is maybe isolating my voice, who knows. Oh, I guess I'll see when I'm editing. Standard. Okay, this is going to be on standard mode. Alright, this is going to be music. Hopefully there was a difference. Okay, before anything else, let's explore some of the options. And to do that, press the menu button on the back. In here, we have the typical Canon camera menu system you might be used to, with some minor appearance differences, and of course different options. First, we have a digital zoom option, although I don't know why this is grayed out right now, but I know when it isn't going to be grayed out, so I'll show you that later. The zoom speed level changes how fast these zoom controls on the top of the GX10 work. These are analog zoom controls, by the way, so the more or less you reef on them, the faster or slower they'll affect the zooming speed. Next, we have the zoom rocker zoom speed, which actually lets you change that analog functionality to more of a digital one. Wireless control zoom speed is for later. High-speed zoom, I'm not really sure what this does, other than make these zoom controls able to zoom even faster. AF mode is grayed out, and I'm not really sure why. This is the end of the list here, but if you've never seen, Canon's UI before, you might not realize that there's actually more pages. And you can see how many between the menu types and the list itself. And there's 4 pages here. You can tap any of these tiny things, or you can navigate to them with the joystick thing. This is not a smooth animation. Anyway, these options, AF frame size, AF speed, AF response, face detection and tracking, and focus guide, are all grayed out, and again, I have no idea why. At the bottom of this one is the focus preset speed, which changes how fast the camera will try to refocus. From now on, I'll just be skipping past grayed out options that just aren't available in auto mode, but are in manual mode. On page 3 here, we have auto slow shutter, which I believe, if you have it on, allows the camera to adjust automatically the shutter speed below 60, which if you're recording 1080p 60 or 4K 60 will look very bad, but often makes shooting in darker environments more doable. Now here we have flicker reduction. This isn't in the script, but basically what I think this does is if you're recording something like a CRT display or something, like a display from the 90s or before, they have this characteristic flicker because the shutter speed of the camera doesn't match the refresh rate of that display. Conversion lens. Oh, Canon apparently sold 2 lenses that screw on the front of this camcorder. Think of the wide-angle lens on your fancy iPhone being the camcorder normally. And these 2 here are kind of like the telephoto lens and the ultra-wide lens on your phone, but separate add-ons for this camcorder. The image stabilizer. Yeah, I like that. The image stabilizer is pretty much the most important option, I think, in this camcorder for me. What this does is reduce the amount of shakiness in your video. On standard mode, it uses physical mechanisms inside the camcorder lens assembly to counteract your movements in real time. Which doesn't really look like it's working all that well. Yeah, that actually doesn't look like it's working at all. What the hell? Why is it on bird mode? What did I do? I became an idiot. Yeah, so here we can see that the footage is shaking quite a bit, but if we go and turn this image stabilizer on, it's all of a sudden a little bit less shaky. And if we turn this image stabilizer onto dynamic, I think this does digital image stabilization as well as the optical, which means there's basically no shakes at all, unless the ones you do deliberately. And since this doesn't seem to warp the image that actually gets recorded in the camcorder, it's warping the one that you're seeing right now, but the footage that comes from the camcorder itself, from the footage, doesn't have this effect. That's just because, I guess my capture card is just stupid. Inator. But yeah, digital stabilization is pretty nasty on most cameras, but on this camcorder, it's awesome. It works pretty well and does not destroy your picture. The stabilization on this camcorder is very good, but it's not even close to the best I've seen. The best coming from Sony and Apple. Oh, there's also a powered IS button that I don't know why isn't in the script. Oh, this must be new. Oh my god. So, I updated the firmware on this camcorder, so a lot of these options, their functionality may have changed since I wrote this script, because I wrote this script before I updated the firmware. This must be a new option that isn't in the script because I wrote the script using an old firmware for reference. So this seems to be a new option that allows the powered IS button to not have to be a hold button. You don't have to hold it down anymore for as long as you want to use it. You can have it just be a toggle button. So you press it once and let it go, and it's on for as long as you need until you press the button again and it turns it off. But my first explanation still applies if you have it on the default setting of press and hold. So there you go. On page 4, there's focus ring direction, which changes which way the controls go for the focus ring. Focus ring response changes how much your movements actually affect the focusing. Zoom ring direction does the same thing as focus ring direction, but for the zoom control. I don't know where the focus ring and the zoom ring actually are, since I can only locate 2 controls that spin, and only one that resembles a ring. So let's take a look at them, as well as the front of the GX10. Here's the lens. This is a 15x optical zoom f2.8 to 4.5 lens. So far, this is the worst lens we've seen on, the Deep Feature series, as the f-factor is much higher than the older camcorders. I think this is because companies like this think they can get away with putting crappier lens in their stuff because the sensors have become so good, which might be true. Here's the lens cap. Yep, not much to see here. It just comes off and stays off. There's an attachment for this camcorder that you're very likely to see if you look at the marketing material for the GX10, which is the barn doors attachment, which I can never actually put on without failing. There we go. This is what's usually called the barn doors, but it's really just a flap that goes up and down with a switch on the side of it. This makes it look a lot more professional, but I think reducing the glare on the lens is what this is actually meant to do. Looking 20% cooler is just a plus. I'm going to leave it off for the rest of the video though. Taking a look around the lens reveals this turn-weighted ring. This could either be the focus ring or the zoom ring. For me, it's the zoom ring because turning this with my settings causes the lens to zoom according to my movements. And the only other spinny thing here is this little nubbin down here on the bottom that is quite spiky indeed. This is another weighted spinny thing, but it's not a ring, so how do I even use it? I haven't actually found a way to utilize this in any meaningful way. On the top of where the lens is, there's a stereo microphone array under this mesh plate. This is the best microphone I've ever seen built into any Canon camera, and its auto volume is excellent and picks up basically everything it needs to and a little more. I have to call this microphone situation excellent. On the side, this will be a little surprising, is controls for an ND filter carousel. No kidding. Press this button and it'll physically swing a little filter into the lens assembly. There's actually 3 of these in here. One is a 4, then a 16, and finally a 64. I'm not exactly sure what these numbers mean, but I do know what these ND filters are for. So shooting in daylight is rough, especially with a good sensor with great light sensitivity and a great lens that lets a lot of good light in. The problem with that is there's almost always too much light in the daytime outside. So all cameras compensate by first turning the gain all the way down, or the ISO, and then balances the rest across the shutter speed and iris. This is gross oversimplification, by the way. The thing is though, you don't always want to do this, because these settings, shutter speed and iris, have other effects on the picture, and you don't always want those. For example, I think adjusting the iris makes the depth of field, as in the range of what can or can't be in focus at once, change accordingly. To provide a way, however crudely, of reducing the amount of light so that this doesn't happen, these ND filters are basically just dark filters, increasing in intensity. Neato. Under this, there's a switch that changes what the zoom ring is used for. I have it set to zoom, because I want it to be a zoom ring, but you can use it as a focus ring, which is what this switch does. Zoom is just more useful to me. There's also another custom button, although this one doesn't have a number for some reason. There's also screws all over this thing, and I would take this apart to show you guys if I wasn't so afraid that I'd break it. And because I still use it, I really don't want to do that. Alright, back to settings. On the second settings panel, called Recording Setup, there's also 4 pages of stuff. The first thing is only for if you're recording externally through HDMI, like on a Ninja or something. I technically am right now to make this video, but for the purposes of that, let's stick to the internal rec priority. Next are the resolution and frame rate pickers. The GX10 shoots in 720p at 8 megabits or 4 megabits, 1080p 60 and 30 at 17 megabits or 35 megabits, 4K 30 at 150 megabits, and 4K60 at the same 150 megabits. It can also do 24 FPS variants of all of those, except for 720p. 720p recording is also forced to 60 FPS in the 8 megabit mode, and on the 4 megabit mode, it's forced to 30 FPS. Neither of those can be changed to do anything else. Super strange. Also, the 30-hour runtime I discussed earlier was done by me assuming 4K60 mode. Next are the recording media settings, which is basically to which card, A or B, do you want either type of media to go, photos and videos. I have mine do the... I don't have mine doing the obvious. That's weird. Oh yeah, my settings reset. Oh my, okay, well, they're supposed to be that. That's what I had them set to do before I updated the firmware. Next is dual/relay recording. You can set it to dual recording, which records the same video stream to both SD cards. Relay recording allows you to continuously record using card A, and then when that's full, it automatically switches to card B until that's full. And maybe then, when that's full, it checks if card A is still full, and then if it isn't, records again onto that, and then back again. But I don't know if it does that last bit. But if it does, you can effectively record forever if you keep swapping the cards in and out and dumping the footage somewhere. Or just delete it, really. Next is slow and fast motion, which is a lot of fun, but also a lot of talking. When set to 4K60, this gives you a bunch of options of doing fast motion recording. As in, you shoot for like 10 minutes, and it condenses it into like 1 minute. So a preset time-lapse, basically. This goes from a 2x time-lapse to a 1200 times time-lapse. 2 times is 2 minutes of recording, and after, it'll be 1 minute long. 1200 times is 20 hours of recording, condensed into the same 1 minute time-lapse. You cannot change any other parameters of the time-lapsing. However, we're not actually seeing everything that this can do. We have to change our frame rate from 60 FPS to either 30 or 24 FPS to see the rest. First, let's try 24. This only, quite uselessly, gives us a 0.8x slow motion option. No idea who could actually use this for something, but I'm sure such a person exists. Switching to 30 FPS gives us a more useful option for slow motion, but in 4K mode we only get 0.5x, so half speed. Switching to 1080p though, with the same 30 FPS option, gives us 2 options now. So now we have a quarter speed option, Quarter speed makes this camcorder actually shoot in 120 FPS, and divided into quarters that gives you our 30 FPS setting. If you change to 60 FPS though, you still do get all the same fast motion options we had with 4K60, but now we have a 0.5 option here too. This camcorder cannot do 4K 120 of course, so that's why that half speed option was missing with the 4K set. In 4K60 mode anyway. On page 2 here, there's two options that basically make up the disk utility of this camcorder. Available space and memory tells you how much of a specific card is being used, the total space, and how many pictures or hours/minutes of video you can record onto it. It also tells you what class the card is and basically how good it is to a point. Initialize is the formatting tool that you use to format a card for use on this camcorder. I believe this formats and uses cards in the exFAT volume format. External recording video configuration is only available when you have the external only recording on that I mentioned earlier, and this gives you the following options for HDMI video output: 4K60 420 8-bit, 1080p 60 422 10-bit, 4K 30 422 8-bit, and 1080p 30 422 10-bit. Record command is for, I think, an HDMI signal to tell the camera to start recording or something. HDMI timecode can only be for outputting the camera's internal timecode through the HDMI port. Timecode mode switches between a preset timecode and a regenerative timecode. I think the regenerative timecode restarts at 0 every time you press record, and the preset one is whatever it ends up being. We'll actually talk about that later in the video as well. I don't know much about timecode, but here's another timecode option on page 3. Timecode running mode. I'm not even going to go into trying to describe what these do. DF/NDF refers to something else in timecode land that changes in what way the timecode is corrected for the slight difference in the signal from what it actually is, being 29.97 FPS for example, and 30 FPS. Yeah, because this actually records at 59.94, 27.97, or 23.976 FPS. But for simplification, I round them up a tiny bit. But the timecode needs to do that as well. All that, if I'm understanding from a quick Google search on how that aspect of timecode works. More timecode. This is where you can actually set the timecode used for the aforementioned preset timecode option. It's a simple picker with a reset button at the bottom, and it's in the format of timecode: hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. User bit type is where you set what I think is part of the MP4 file metadata. This can be anything, but is usually reserved for time and date info, which it gives you the option to automatically put there, but they also give you the option to literally just set these bits manually to whatever you want, to anything. What the wiener. I don't even know what someone could do with that. Next, we have a nice little color bars generator. These are standard test signals, and here's two standard formats of this test concept included here. I don't know what the hell HRIB is, but SMPTE is a standards organization, I think, and this is their color bars. Yes, that's how you say it. Next is another testing option, but for audio this time. So, you know that loud bloop noise that you hear whenever someone supposedly swore on TV or something? Well, here's a generator just for that very sound. Here, let's try it out. What the fuck? Okay, that didn't actually work at all. Yeah, that just, I don't think that worked at all. On the fourth page, there's file numbering, which actually now on this firmware is called MP4 clip/photo numbering, which changes how the files on the card get numbered when they're created. If there's no files on the card, have it reset back to MVV001 or whatever. But when set to continuous, I think it'll just continue counting up until the camera loses power completely or something, like if the battery dies when it's not plugged in. Okay, now for the audio setup settings pane, which is right here. Almost everything is grayed out, especially on the first page. None of these have ever been changeable for me. Only on the second page here do we have anything we can mess with. Plus more grayed out stuff that wouldn't be if I had a hot shoe mic attached. These two things are headphone volume, which changes the volume coming out of the headphone jack, and notification sounds, which goes from high volume to off, with low volume in the middle. I have it on high volume because I am loud. The next settings pane is the display setup. Output terminal lets you turn off the HDMI output, which I'm not going to test because that's what you're seeing right now. HDMI max resolution. Oh my god. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. It doesn't display the UI. in HDMI 4K mode. Okay, well, I guess I should switch my ProRes recording to 1080p, or else this is gonna be one huge ass file for no good reason. Why? Why did they do this shit? Anyway, you can switch it between 4K and 1080p, and the UI does not appear in 4K mode. Output status gives you, well, for me, typing the script, it's just a thing that says video output and audio output with some lines under them. But I'm sure that when I'm recording this, it shows a basic overview of what it's spitting out the HDMI port, which it seems to be doing. LCD brightness lets you change the effective brightness of the flip-out touchscreen display. Although this doesn't really behave like brightness, like it just blows everything out when you turn it up, which isn't really what I want, because that just makes the display a lot less accurate. I just want the backlight to be brighter, which luckily is the next option here. LCD backlight, although it's not a slider. This goes from dim to bright with a normal setting which it defaults on in the middle. This screen is not that bright, but it's more than good enough for indoor shooting, and it's okay for outdoor shooting. There's also a setting for the iCut viewfinder on the back, but that just goes between bright and normal. Normal is what it is normally, of course. Setting these to lower brightnesses would help a tiny bit on battery life, of course. On page 2, we have LCD mirror image. Okay, so this is actually for if you have the flip-out screen flipped around to face the way the lens faces. So like if you're doing a selfie or something. It seems to change how the image is displayed for that, but I can't get it to be consistent. And I can't really show you how either, it's really hard to show off. Next is output on-screen displays, which is the clean feed option, like for external recording stuff, like I'm doing now. But if I turn this off, let's see what happens. Yeah, it just switches to whatever it does on 4K. So stupid. On-screen markers lets you turn on an on-screen shooting grid or a level meter in either gray or white. Distance units lets you change how the camcorder gives you distance metrics, either in meters or feet. The next settings panel is system setup. And there's a lot. 5 pages worth, but most stuff here is fairly self-explanatory. First, there's language. I hope you're not watching this video because you got this thing stuck in a language you can't read. Anyway, there's quite a few languages here. Next is where you set the date and time, and if it's daylight savings time or not. Next is actually date and time, which I don't have in the script, but, well, this is the menu, and there it is. Next we have network settings. And here, there's connection settings, activate, browser remote settings, and view information. Info must be easy, right? Oh my god. Yeah, there's a lot here. We have the GX10's network name, the set connection method, the SSID, the auth security method, and the wait, don't show that. The WEP index key? What? The frequency and the channel, and then there's IP stuff. The browser remote is something we'll cover later. Actually, we won't cover this later. That's going to be a separate video. If you guys want it, comment if you guys want it. I think basically what it is a web app that you run in your web browser, like Firefox or Chrome or something, that you type in this camera's IP, and it gives you like an interface to control the camera with, which sounds really cool, like even better than an iPhone app or something, because you can actually use it on an actual good-sized screen. I'm not actually sure if it's any of that though. The Activate section has basically the on-off switch for the browser remote functionality. Under connection settings, that is where you actually go to do stuff. These are the Wi-Fi settings, basically. You can save 4 different schemes for connection stuff, which is kind of cool, but the top one has our camera AP name. And if you press the settings button next to that, it brings up a similar info list to the other one, but with an edit button on the bottom. That's so you can go mess everything up. Okay, the rest of the network stuff will be explained later. Next is fan, which lets you let the camera decide when it needs the internal fan, or to just always have it be on. Then there's the wireless remote control option, and this lets you turn on and off that functionality. On page 2, you can turn the power/charge LED on or off, and same for the access LED. Auto power off, if enabled, turns off the GX10 if it has been left on or not touched for like 10 minutes or something, maybe 5. I don't know what the remote terminal is or what it does, but it seems to be some kind of... I have no idea. Next, we have the different things you can set each of the 5 custom buttons to, and this is what I have mine set to. Button 1, AF/MF. Button 2, Power IS. Button 3, well, I guess that's why Prerec didn't work before I updated the firmware, because when I updated the firmware, it reset everything back to what it was when the camera shipped, and I had that set to a photo button. But now it's Prerec. Button 4 is actually what I had the pre-recording functionality set to, but right now it's set to Rec Review. these are actually what the labels of the buttons are. There's also an on-screen custom button as well as a custom that's what that's for. Okay, so that little spiky thing down here, the little nubbin down here, that's actually what the custom dial and button setting is for. Lets you specify what you want to do with those things. But there's only 4 things, and one of them is off. So basically, you press the button and then you do whatever you want to do with the dial. So that's what that does. But the on-screen assignable button is the thing that says photo right here. That's the thing I do to take a photo. But in here, you can set that to basically whatever you want. And actually, backlight always on is probably the best thing for me. So I guess I'll change it to that. Next, we have battery info, which tells you a further status of the attached battery. On page 4, we have a way to save a backup of our settings to an SD card. Specifically the B card, not the A card. There's also settings in here for GPS functionality that presumably needed to be added on through extra hardware attachments that I don't have, as well as a certification logo display, which is exactly what it sounds like. Okay, there's only 3 things left in here before I lose my voice. There's a demo mode, which I have never been able to activate. The camcorder's currently installed firmware, and actually that's how you update the firmware. If it sees a firmware update file on the card that it recognizes, that option will light up and you can use that file to update the camera. And on page 5, a setting that, if I was over 30 years of age, would give me a heart attack. Wow, that was a lot of settings. But honestly, that's nothing compared to most of the other cameras I have from the modern age. There's a few more things around the GX10 that I haven't mentioned yet though, so let's go do that. This camcorder has a speaker. But no one's clapping because this has been expected on camcorders for decades. It's even been on point-and-shoot cameras for decades as well. What's strange about this particular speaker though, is that the sound effects it plays are very noisy, as in low quality noise. Here, have a listen. Just get out. That's so weird. And yeah, I'm not sure why this is. The G60 definitely didn't have that. But it works. Nothing to write home about, but it works. And here it is playing Too Late by Alan Parsons Project.
Too late. It's just too late.
Anyway, across from that, there's this large PVC flap, and if you flip your flap, there's an external microphone port. Awesome! A USB 2.0 port, which is almost useless, and a mini HDMI output. This is actually an HDMI 2.0 specified port, which means it can output 4K60. This is in fact what you would have been looking at this whole time, however long I've been talking about what appears on the screen on this camcorder, if it actually output 4K60 with the on-screen display. So you've actually been looking at 1080p this whole time, but whatever. So frustrating. Okay, sorry. I don't really have anywhere else to put this part. This unit seemed to be dying, at least before I updated the firmware. I mean, this thing reeks of age already. It's only like 7 or 8 years old. One of the things it did was I couldn't use it in auto mode because the white balance just seemed to go nutter butters after a few minutes. Sometimes it would just make everything blue for no reason, or just flash a crap ton of blue noise all over the footage. Completely bizarre. This also seems to have been used for a long while, based on how the people we bought it from talked about it, and how the little white sticker under the flip-out touchscreen says it's a demo unit. Speaking of that flip-out screen, when I flip it out, it makes all these fun crackling noises, which actually it wasn't doing before I did it just now, but there you go. But yeah, this does not sound healthy. And it would do this every time I would flip out the screen when I got it, until a couple days ago actually. I actually had a different unit, one that didn't have the demo sticker on it, about a year ago before I got this unit, and that did not have the white balance issues or the flip out screen issue. But of course, as soon as I updated the firmware, the problem seems to have gone away, and so did the flip out screen. Sometimes. It doesn't do it all the time. Because of that though, I was forced to basically use this GX10 in an arguably much better mode, which is manual mode. This is what most of the footage I show in this video was recorded under. On the top, next to the zoom rocker control, there's an access LED which lights up solid red when it's doing something with the SD cards. And right by that, there's a switch that by default is on auto mode, which is what we were in. But now let's check out manual mode. So in manual mode, a few things change. In settings, there's a few newly available options. First is digital zoom. This is only useful if you really want a close-up of something that far exceeds the 15x zoom range of this camcorder. This gives you way more zoom capability, but at the expense of greater and greater image quality loss the more you zoom into it. This digital zoom though only starts after you zoom past 15x. Digital teleconv just sets digital zoom to 2x. I don't know why that's there. On page 2 here, we get all of the options. AF frame size changes the size of the box that appears when you tap focus, so if you want to track larger or smaller objects, set this accordingly. Automatic tries to determine what you want to track and picks a prefab box size based on that. AF speed changes how fast the camera will try to focus on stuff. AF response is basically the same thing. I'd be confusing those for ages. Face detection and tracking allows you to turn on or off that functionality, because sometimes you just want the camcorder to focus on specific things, and if this is on, it'll prioritize tracking faces over everything else. Focus guide is the thing that appears now when you press the AF/MF button. This allows you to have a meter to tell you when the thing you're pointing at is in focus, if your vision is failing to tell you that. Now on page 3, auto backlight correction is addressing a problem I mentioned in a couple of previous episodes on camcorders, which is the backlight problem. If your subject is in front of a large source of light, the camera will likely try to compensate for that and effectively turn the brightness way down, making your subject very dark. To account for this situation, auto backlight correction makes this not happen as often. And here's where you turn that off, if that's something you actually want to do. At the bottom of page 3, we have set white balance priority. Actually, this is on the next page. It was moved on to the next page because there's a bunch of new options in here. So on page 4 here, we have set white balance priority, which is now an option we can change. This is for changing what lighting situation you're recording in so that the camcorder's white balance can make the scene look more natural. We have automatic for complete automation of this, daylight, tungsten, a set color temperature in Kelvin, set 1, and set 2. I think set 1 and set 2 are simply preset color temperatures that you can't change. But the color temperature option is basically another one of those that you can change. And you do that somewhere else that I'll get to later. That's actually all that's different in settings. I know, right? Not really all that much. Now let's open the function menu and yeah, there's a lot more shit. But the problem with describing it right now as it is that the stuff in here still changes depending on what manual shooting mode you're in. Right now I'm in TV mode, which apparently means shutter priority with auto exposure. but there's many others, and these are P, programmed with auto exposure, AV, aperture priority with auto exposure, M, manual exposure / full manual mode, portrait, sports, night scene, snow, beach, sunset, low light, spotlight, and fireworks. These all seem to just change the same variety of settings you can change on your own in the functions menu. I shoot with the TV mode because it allows me to change the shutter speed but still have auto exposure, which for me is exactly what I need usually. But let's switch into manual exposure mode. I'm not going to go into how most of a camera captures stuff in this video, but I'll give you the basics. Under where it says M, you'll see an F factor. This is the iris setting. The lower it goes, the more light the camera gets. The higher it flows, the less light you get. Same for the shutter speed, except higher shutter speeds mean smoother and more stable video footage. So I generally shoot with a shutter speed of 90 or higher when shooting at 4K60. That's actually what this Canon EOS R5C I'm recording this video with is shooting at, 90. If you want your 4K60 footage to actually look 4K60, this is what you do. Right now it's actually set to 120 though. Next we have the gain setting, which is measured in decibels, which is kind of strange to me since I associate that with audio more than anything else. So this is basically like ISO on a normal camera. Turning it up makes the image brighter at the expense of some visual quality. So you basically want to put the gain as low as you can to maintain image quality. And this goes from 0 to 39. The higher the number, the brighter the image. And on auto mode, the camcorder balances these all very neatly most of the time, but for finely tuned shots, what you need is to change every little thing, and this lets you do that. But let's go back into the function menu. First we have iris control, also known as aperture. This goes from f2.8 to f11. The higher the number, the darker the image is. Note that as you zoom, this lens has a range of how small this number can be, based on how far in you're zoomed. So when you're zoomed all the way in, the minimum aperture is 4.5, but if you zoom all the way out, so normal, we have a minimum aperture of 2.8. And actually they fixed an issue since I last saw this. Before, it would only let me go down to 4.8, rather than what the lens actually said, which is 4.5. But now they fixed it, so it does actually say 4.5. So that's good. Next, we have shutter speed control. Higher number, higher persistence of vision, at the cost of reduced exposure, of course. The higher it goes, the less light you get. This goes from 1/8 of a second to 1/2000th of a second. Next we have the gain control. Higher is brighter but noisier. This goes from, well, 0 dB to 39 dB. Now we have our white balance controls. You can change between any of the same options we saw in settings before, but now here's where you actually can change and set the set 1 and set 2 options, which save like your settings do, and change the K color temperature option by pressing this set button. This brings up a slider that lets you set a specific color temperature in standard Kelvin units. In very simple terms, the lesser the number, the bluer the image appears, and the higher the number, the more orange it appears. One of the possible goals here is to match your lighting situation's Kelvin number, or basically just find a balance between the two that looks like the scene does in real life to your eyes, which right now, this is what it looks like. So, there you go. Found it. But I usually shoot in 4800 Kelvin, which isn't even in here, is it? Nope, it's not. Okay, whatever. Next is the backlight correction control. Here, you can make it so the backlight correction I explained before is always on. Next is a focus control menu. The peak button turns on this kind of red line indicator-ism that, if you know how to use it, tells you how things are in focus or not. It's red by default, but you can actually change the settings for that in the in here. So now it's blue, now it's yellow, which actually looks green, not yellow to me. And that apparently doesn't show up on the external display. So you won't be seeing this, but I can see it. That's super dumb. Why doesn't that appear on the thing? But back to the option, you can press anywhere on the box that is shown to focus to a specific area, which changes the focus mode at the bottom to manual mode. You can then also press the distance label toggle button here, which then makes a preset toggle button appear, but I don't know what that does. It doesn't seem to do anything, really. Press the down arrow at the bottom of the list of options, and there's even more. There's the same zoom and audio controls we saw in the auto shooting mode, but there's two new ones here. Magnification, once you press OK, digitally magnifies the displayed image. maybe 3 times or 4 times. You can then pan around with a little indicator at the bottom right corner telling you where you are in the normal view. This doesn't actually affect the recorded video, and it doesn't actually show on my preview monitor, so you won't be seeing this. This is just for the shooter's benefit, which I can see being quite useful. And then the last new control here is the looks menu. Ooh, fancy. Which is like the manual shooting modes menu, but just affects the standard look of the picture, not how it's actually being captured. This is actually an entirely different set of detailed image settings hidden away inside the settings button. You can change the apparent sharpness, contrast, and color depth compensation of your shot. These options can be set and saved inside each of these 3 modes, but the modes do different things. It's not like they're just savable presets for the 3 options. 1 is standard, which lets you change all the 3 options. 2 is wide DR, which lets you change only sharpness and color depth. And 3 is monochrome, which only lets you change sharpness and contrast, obviously, because there's no color in this image. Color depth doesn't matter. And that's it. The battery situation seems to be decent, actually, and dead simple. There seems to be only one size of battery for this camcorder, and that physical size only has one capacity variant, about 20 watt hours. The off-brand battery I have lasts for less apparent time than the official Canon ones do, of course. Of course, even if it does say that it'll last the same amount of time on the display, and even if it has the same capacity. The battery is straight from Canon, lasts about an hour and a half, but the off-brand one I have seems to only last about a half hour. And that actually tells you now how long I have had this camera on, which is about half the time I've actually been recording. So usually I just put in some random test footage gathered over the week that I was working on this video, but this time we really want to see this thing deliver, and I've been using this GX10 for a whole year and a half, so let's start from the beginning, or when I got it, and gradually work our way to the present day. This is less of a test footage segment and more of the GX10 experience by Irid Redux. Let's go.
This is a test of the Canon GX10, a camera from 2017. Hopefully I'll be able to use this instead of the other cameras that we had. Color seems alright. This is a camera from 2017, if you can believe it. Incredible low light performance as always from Canon. And this is probably the first thing I'm going to do a video on with this new camera. It's very noisy but fine, especially since it's quite low light conditions. This is still relatively low light compared to upstairs, so it's going to be noisy still. My drum set's lit up. This is the Canon GX10 consumer camcorder, their first and last 4K60 camcorder for consumers. I believe they made, I believe everyone made and still makes 4K60 camcorders, but they're all professional camcorders, so you have to do a whole bunch of crap to the image to make it look reasonable, or else it looks like crap. I just need something that I can, that I know works, that I know how it works, and then I can just press record and have it do the thing. This seems to do that, and if the quality is as good as I can see it is, And there's a lot of blue in the image, but that's good. That's supposed to be like that. My desktop wallpaper has a lot of blue on it, so that makes sense. And I'm glad that it's accurate to what it should be. Instead of making my face all red and crap like the Panasonic X1500 did. This seems to be rather accurate. It seems to be a nice clean image. It almost looks like a DSLR, just, you know, inside a camcorder body, which is basically what I need. I'm actually thinking of just doing a video on this camcorder, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm using a 7-year-old camcorder. And it works better than modern DSLR cameras. It's absurd, but it's true. I mean, this thing, it probably doesn't overheat, and it shoots 4K 60 at 150 megabits.
Now that's what one would call relatable.
A video high definition audio.
Yes?
Hello, she's gone. Imagine if your dad was just there and just put this there. Something funny.
I am something funny.
Lofa.
Oh, fuck.
Damn, it's scary.
Yes, I made it.
Called a Gretsuko.
What?
A Gretsuko.
I have no idea.
Japanese show. Okay.
No, I don't know of any of those.
I know you don't watch much anime.
I don't watch any yet. I don't even
Okay.
fully know what it is.
boats go out across the evening water, smuggling guns and arms across the Spanish border. The wind whips up, the waves are loud, the ghost moon sails among the clouds, turns the rifles into silver on the border. On my wall, the colors of the maps are running. From Africa, the winds, they talk of change is coming. The torches flare up in the night, the hand that sets the farms alight to spread the word to those who are waiting on the border. In the village where I grew up, nothing seems the same. Still you never see the change from day to day. No one notices the customs slip away. Late last night the rain was knocking on my window. I moved across the darkened room and in the lamp glow I thought I saw down in the street
moment?
the spirit of the century, telling us that we're all standing on the border. In the islands where I grew up, nothing seems the same. It's just the patterns that remain, an empty shell. But there's a strangeness in the air you feel too well. Boats go out across the evening water, smuggling guns and arms across the Spanish border. The wind whips up, the waves are loud, the ghost moon sails among the clouds, turns the rifles into silver on the border. On the border. On the border.
Hey, look! It's my gaming computer case. The Obsidian. What is?
Have to let it warm up.
What are these?
These guys, these are all GPS units.
What
like
about that?
These cameras.
Oh, those are
these
cameras.
are all untested.
Yo!
Cheapest red I could find is like $4 or so.
CPU for free, and I just needed to unbend the pins. And so my dad gave me.
Would you bend him in the first place?
Okay, look.
Yeah, that's me.
Nice. Is this going on the channel?
Man, I don't know. So what? And I said, I truly don't care. I answered your question.
Why do you have to record me every fucking second of your life like a stalker?
Because you're funny.
I am not funny!
I'm hearing over his camera, what? Oh, don't worry, I don't actually care what people think it means, it's just an illusion thing.
It's a wiener.
You.
from a Bogart movie, in a country where they turn back time. You go strolling through the crowd like Peter Lorre contemplating a crime. She comes out of the sun in a silk dress, running like a watercolor in the rain. Don't bother asking for explanation, she'll just tell you that she came in the year of the cat. She doesn't give you time for questions as she locks up your arm in hers, and you follow till your sense of which direction completely disappears. By the blue tiled walls near the market stalls, there's a hidden door she leads you to. These days, she says, I feel my life just like a river running through the year of the cat. While she looks at you so coolly, and her eyes shine like the moon and the sea. She comes in incense and patchouli, so you take her to find what's waiting inside the year of the cat.
Tommy Gate. Tommy Gate! You gonna bang the student driver? Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
King of quail eggs. Not just quail eggs, fresh quail eggs.
One morning comes and you're still with her, and the bus and the tourists are gone, and you've thrown away your choice and lost your ticket, so you have to stay on. But the drumbeat strains of the night remain, and the rhythm of the newborn day. You know sometime you're bound to leave her, but for now you're gonna stay in the year of the cat. Year of the cat.
Okay, well, that was quite a mixed goodie bag, wasn't it? You can see the quality is incredible when it's allowed to be. The next area of things I want to talk about is actually the wireless stuff, so I'm going to have to change the battery before I do that, because this only has like 10 minutes and that's not going to be enough. It's going to interrupt me. Why am I still in monochrome mode? So, usually camcorders come with a compatible remote, or at least one that you can buy separately, so you can control several aspects of the camcorder, like from across the room. And you can see how that would be quite useful. You could, I think, use the 2.5mm mini jack remote port on the back near the DC jack for that. I wouldn't know how, but I'm sure someone does. Anyways, the camera did come with an actual... well, I think it's an infrared remote, actually. But it's called the Wireless Controller WL-D89. And it's compatible with likely the G50, G60, and G70, as well as this GX10. Because as you can see, I'm all the way back here and... oh wait, this doesn't have a power button on it, so I actually have to go back and turn on the GX10 manually. I don't know why this is, but I think it's a missed opportunity. Anyway, now that it's on, we can start and stop recording, take a photo, zoom in and out, the speed of which is the setting we discussed, enter the menu, browse the menus with the D-pad, and change the display parameters. There's a few more buttons on here, but those only do stuff in the GX10's media mode. So we flip the switch from camera to media, and we get a bloop and a new interface. This is the basic playback mode of this camcorder line. On the touchscreen, you can swipe side to side to view media from different folders, although there's only one on here right now, so I can't do that. But I think different folders just means different days. You can tap on one, and it'll of course start playing. You can then tap anywhere on the screen to bring up playback controls. First we have rewind, which I think is only single speed. There's fast forward, and in the middle there's variable speed buttons. Press them once and playback starts in the direction you picked at 1/4 speed. Press it again, and it's now 1/8 speed. There's also a play pause button, 2 frame skip buttons, which lets you examine each frame of your video, and a volume options button. This brings up sliders for headphone volume and internal speaker volume. And I think the internal speaker one is disabled because it's outputting through HDMI. In this playback menu is the only place I can get the rest of the remote's buttons to work. Stop, play, pause, and this media rotation type one, which I don't know what that's supposed to imply. It doesn't rotate your video or anything. We'll come back to that. Up atop this interface, there's a function button. Press that and you only get 2 options for the selected clip. Delete or trim. Delete is delete, Cyberman. Trim is more interesting. This brings up a little editor interface for you to lob one side of your video off. You can even do this frame accurately. Next, tap trim, and you get trim before marker or trim after marker. I'll say trim before marker. So it's basically which side you want to keep. You can also choose if you want to overwrite the clip you're editing, as in edit it actually, or save the edited video as a new clip itself, keeping the original, which I'll do save as new, which is what it's doing now. Very slowly, for some reason. The stop button exits this playback menu. There's more functionality here though. That button on the remote that I said would come up later actually works here. And it basically activates this button on the top. This lets you select which card you want to be seeing the stuff from, and the type of stuff you want to see. Your photos or your videos. You have to press one when in this menu. There's no back button. On the bottom, there's an info button. Press that, and it tells you to select my desired clip. Do that, and it gives you some very basic info on it. Very basic. Doesn't even give you a file size. At least this interface lets you get info on the other clips you have in the same folder while you're here. It shows what folder the clip is in on the top as well. On the bottom again, there's a function button. Press that, and you have the rest of the options here. Delete, which allows you to select multiple clips to delete, or all clips, or just the entire folder you're in. Copy, which lets you copy stuff between your 2 SD cards with the same selection options, although you'd have to do photos separately from videos. And FTP transfer. What? I mean, this GX10 has Wi-Fi after all, and this is apparently one of the very few uses for it. Let me see if I can get this connected to do anything. I mean, no matter what, it's gonna be dog slow, but I'm gonna try it out anyway. And the answer, by the way, is no. I got it ungrayed out, but I couldn't do anything with it. It wouldn't work with my NAS's FTP system, and I have no idea why. It just seems to be broken. Although I tried that on the old firmware, so I'll see if I can get this to work, and if it does, there'll be a section with that footage. So stay tuned. Oh, and we have some more menu options for the playback mode. There seems to be only one, which is MP4 data code. This lets you, I think, pick whether or not you want to read the data code for the date in the clips you've recorded. Not sure why you would ever want to turn that off, but there you go. Anyway, we're in here for the network settings. So let's go to here, and I'm actually just gonna not really talk all that much. I'm just gonna set this up. So if you want to skip this, I don't blame you, but I'm gonna go into connection settings. Oh, actually there is something in here I want to talk about. So select the connection method. This is actually what we saw before that I refused to go into. We're gonna talk about this now. Infrastructure is like if you've got Wi-Fi nearby that you want to connect to, like if you're at home or like at the office or something. But basically just if you're at home and you have infrastructure set up like Wi-Fi networks and stuff, you can connect the camera to. Camera access point, on the other hand, is the other side. That's for if you're like traveling and you want to connect your phone to the camera. You want to connect the stuff to the camera that you're going to work with. Both of these seem to be dog slow last time I tried them, but infrastructure gave me the best results, so let's go for that. I don't know why anyone else would do anything else except for search for access points, but we have WPS button. You know, some access points have a button that you press, kind of like a Bluetooth sync button, but for Wi-Fi. WPS pin code, I don't even know what that is. I could guess, but I'm not going to. And search for access points, which is basically what your phone does. And like every computer I've ever used, just gives you a list of stuff. Manual is you basically put in everything. SSID, the name, the password, the MAC address, everything. Okay, not the MAC address, and the SSID is the name, but you get what I mean. Just put everything in yourself. I'm gonna do search for access points, because who the hell would do anything else? We have an access point right behind me. You can't see because it's right outside the camera's view up above, but this should detect it very, very, very well. Okay, it turns out this doesn't seem to support 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. It only supports 2.4 gigahertz, so that's stupid. Anyway, I'll click OK on that, and I have to enter an encryption key. Look at this tiny, cute keyboard. I don't think this shows up anywhere else in this interface, but I love it. It's so stupid, yet it's so adorable. I mean, it's the only way to do this right, but yeah, I just didn't expect this. Anyway, this is adorable, and it still shows up in the viewfinder as well. That's so cute. It's so cute, love it. So I'm gonna enter my password. I'm not gonna show you that. Whoops, okay, there it is. Now I'm going to click OK, and IP address. I'm not gonna pick an IP address. I'm just gonna click automatic. I'll just get whatever the router gives me. And bam, click OK. Edit network configuration name. Winori, nope, no, Winorium. Winoru! That might actually be the maximum amount of characters allowed in this space, so I'll just do Winoru. Save network configuration, and it just does it. Okay, so now we can go in and see, yep, Winoru. And none of the other ones are configured. All right, so now under FTP transfer settings, I need to basically configure the parameters of connecting to my FTP server, which I can do here. So FTP server, it's going to be 192.16. No, 168. Username, red, that's me. Wait, no, this needs to be lowercase. And the password, I'm not gonna show you. Okay, there we go, I've entered it. And destination folder, okay. I'm actually gonna put this into recordings, all right. And port number 21, yes, passive mode off. I don't know what that does. This video is long enough already. Let's just see this thing work. So that should have saved now. Now if I go into view information, we have all this stuff here. I haven't connected to the network yet, so it has none of the information for that. Now I can go and see if I can connect. So let's go to function. FTP transfer is now lit up, which means I can change it, so let's go. Let's select a clip, let's select this, no, let's select a small one, this one. Okay, yes. It's gonna try to connect to my network over Wi-Fi. So this right now is using Wi-Fi, believe it or not. No way. I didn't get this far. It just kind of failed to connect last time. Like it just didn't do anything. It would spin for like a whole minute and then it would just time out. Come on, you know you want to do it. Doing something with the SD cards. Like I said, it's always gonna be dog slow. They're never gonna do this right. Yeah, this is AIDS. I can try to see if it's actually putting stuff on the NAS. Oh my god! It did a little bit. It did a little bit. It did a little bit of my clips to it. Let me see if it's on the NAS. It's not anywhere close to done. It's like a sliver, but I want to check. The Super Yummy, that's what my NAS is called. Recordings, 2025-0815. What's in here? It's doing it. It's so slow. It's only done 58 megabytes so far. 59. It's going at like a megabyte a second. Oh, that's awful. I'm gonna zoom into to where it says the file size, 71 megabytes. That is coming from this camera. Oh my God, is that ever god awful slow. Okay, we just have to do this. This is a 2017 device, by the way. I'm not sure why they skimped on having a 5 gigahertz chip in it. Transferring this one, like 30-second clip, if it's even 30 seconds, this would probably drain half the battery. You would have to be insane to use this. Okay, yeah, I'm stopping this here. This is shit. Probably the worst feature on this camcorder, and they had to put Wi-Fi in it to do that. So they somehow found a way to make the most interesting feature of this camcorder the worst feature of this camcorder. That's just sad. Ugh. Most things about this camcorder are just sad. So when I got this, it had a bunch of issues, but I kind of expected that because, you know, it's a 7 to 8 year old camcorder that seems like it was one of its kind, and it had the oldest firmware on it that's compatible with this camcorder, 1.0.0.0. So I discovered that I should probably update this camcorder to a newer firmware. I didn't even realize that I could do that, because I expected it to be on the newest one, but it wasn't. So I searched up, and the firmware on the Canon website goes up to 2019, and that's version 1.0.4.0, which is now what's on this camcorder, because I updated it. That fixed a lot of the issues that I had. It still, you know, reeks of old age. You know, it's still kind of falling apart, but all the functions seem to work on it now that I updated the firmware. So here's me doing that. Legria. Maybe I do actually have to initialize the card first. That sucks. Let's put the crap on the card again. Alright. What the hell? Oh, it needs to be put into slot B. Okay. Alright. Yes. Oh, it looks like it's doing something different now. Oh! Light's blinking differently now, I think. Oh, Jesus. Ooh! Okay. Oh, Jesus. I didn't even get a chance to do that. Oh, there we go. Oh my god, what day is it? August 9th. Oh, everything's more responsive, it seems like. That's pretty good. 2025. Right now it is something PM. 4 PM or something? Is it 2 PM? 2:38. Oh gosh. 38. I'm gonna do 40. Date, month, year. Okay. No memory card. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, piece fell out again. Switch these around. There we go. Oh, of course, fell out again. Alright, let's see what I can see is different. Actually, first, let's see the function menu. Nothing really new here. Maybe some very, very, very minor changes. I haven't actually recorded any of this video yet, only the script is basically done. So, the rest of this video will be recorded with firmware version 1.0.4, even though I wrote the script looking at 1.0.0. So yeah, some things may be a bit different. Like this, that part, I don't think that was in the script, and it simply won't be. So yeah, things like that, keep that in mind. Oh no, all my settings got reset. Oh man, why must you do this to me?
Shite. I thought of updating the firmware because of a problem I ran into when trying to record the rest of this video. The bugles specifically, I couldn't get the menus and all the junk that appears around the video on the HDMI output, which meant I couldn't actually record it to put in this video. So I'm hoping this fixed that, because I know there's an option over here that's output on-screen displays, but that was already on. So maybe there was just a bug where it just would never do that no matter what on 1.0. Hopefully now that's fixed. Let's see what else is in here. Still the same resolutions and bit rates, same frame rates. Also, I did actually get the pre-recording button to work right before I updated the firmware, which does exactly what you would think it does, which is pretty damn cool, actually. Yeah, there's not much in here that's different. I'm gonna have to do all the network stuff again. Oh, hopefully they fixed that, because that wouldn't work at all before. I have no clips. Balls. This is a quick test recording. Also, I thought the white balance was dying. It turns out I might have just not updated the firmware, and that they might have fixed that. But the screen hinge still not really in good health, and the SD card door is still falling apart, so it's still reeking of age. Well, let's see, go into media. I want to see if there's a way I can see the file size here. Nope, they did not add that. Okay, if I go into it, function, nope, no file size info. I have a bunch of footage back from when this camcorder had issues. I don't know if it has white balance issues anymore, but it did when I was using it a lot, so you will have seen that footage. And until the very end of the footage you've seen so far in this video from this camcorder, only the very end of that was recorded with this updated firmware version. So I guess I'll see if it fixed the issues I was having. But yeah, let's see if it fixed the on-screen displays issue. Whoop, wrong way.
So there you go. The GX10 came out at a strange time in the product line, between 4 different models of 4K30 camcorders, but not as a 4K60 camcorder. They barely marketed the 4K60 functionality of it at all, which is what I'm pretty sure makes this one special over all the others. If they had done a better job marketing this product, there might have been another one made, maybe a GX20, and it might have had improved low light clarity or something. This entire camcorder line seems to be a consumer derivative of the Canon XA Pro camcorder series, like the XA30. They look very similar and likely function similarly as well, and since Canon were already making the XA line, they might as well make consumer variants of those same camcorders, which is what I believe to be the only reason Canon ever bothered making this 4K60 camcorder. This is the 2023 camcorder I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It's a Sony one that will be featured in another episode, but it can only shoot 4K 30 or 1080p 60, just like pretty much any other modern camcorder that costs below $3,000 or so, and most, point and shoot style camcorders. This one costs $600. $800 now, but it was $600 when we bought it. 4K 60 camcorders are exceedingly rare, which is kind of stupid to me because all of our phones can do 4K 60. So why can't companies make a simple camcorder that costs $1,000 with that one capability? It's its only job, when smartphones can do the same for much less. And yeah, I know why. I know why smartphones just have better stuff in them. It's because they can sell more of them, therefore they can buy better parts for less money to build them. I know, it's just how it works, how business is, but it pisses me off. This really should be a 4K 60 camcorder, and if it was, it would be better than the GX10. I actually prefer shooting with this more than this, for one very specific reason, but that'll be next time. But yeah, why is 4K 60 not more common in camcorders and cameras? When they do, they don't do it properly, and the times they do are very special occasions, like this Canon EOS R5C, and like this Canon GX10, both of which have cooling fans. That's probably the only reason why they're able to do what they do. But why is the question we always come back to. But until that gets answered, I will see you on the next video of Mellocore Media. I'm Mr. Red, take care, good night, and have fun.